Hello, literature lovers. Today I'm discussing a very important book, Utopia. It's a little true book, not less beneficial than enjoyable, about how things should be in the new island Utopia. Utopia is called an ideal place, a very special place. It's a work of fiction and socio-political satire by Thomas More. It was written in Latin, so it's kind of utopia, talking about a good place, an ideal place. Everybody can is happy there living, but it's another term that it is nowhere. There is no place where everybody is happy. Now talking about the book, it was written in Latin, published 1516, and the book is a frame narrative, primarily depicting a fictional island society and its religious, social, and political customs. Many aspects of More's description of Utopia are reminiscent of life in monasteries, so there is a reference to religion is there, so you can relate to that. It's a very popular work. Not talking about the title of it, it is taken from the Republic's best state of the new island Utopia. It's and the original name was quite longer, which I'm describing the translated version. It's a truly little golden book and no less beneficial than entertaining of Republic's best state of the new island Utopia. So it's talking about the ideal place, and some of say Europia and some Utopia. They have some different pronunciation related to it. This is the map given here, talking about the world map, how the world is being divided, the circular region of that region. Now talking about the book and that World Cup map of the island of Utopia and the Utopian alphabet verses are by Peter Gills, and Utopia Thomas More's epistle is dedicated to the work to Gillis. Now talking about few books, the book one is the dialogue of COUNSEL, and the work begins with the written correspondence between Thomas More and several people he had met in Europe, including Peter Gills, who is a clerk, and counselor of another man who is the counselor of Charles V. And more those letters were there, and the communication goes between them. And the Utopian alphabet and its poetry is being discussed here. And not to forget Ralph, the traveler. The first book tells about the traveler Ralph. This fact is quite important. It is asked so many times, and I'm just giving an overall view of the book and different aspects related to it. The book 2 is talking about the discourse of Utopia, and this is very, very important too, how it goes. And Utopia is a place in the new world, and more links and Ralph travel throughout the Amerigo. It's a real life voyage of discovery, and he suggests that Ralph is one of the 24 men Vespico, and in his 4 voyages of 1507, and says he left 6 months at a place in Brazil. So the travelogue is going on, and there is a detailed analysis of it, talking about the properties and all of it. And slavery is also a feature in utopian life, and that is also a contrast how slaves are being discussed here. So these are the points that need to be understood. And there are another very important point talking about there are religion on the island, that is the moon worshippers, sun worshippers, planet worshippers, ancestor worshippers, and there are monotheists also. And but each is tolerant to others. This is a great example of a place where we can have different opinions, we can have different religions, and we still, correlate and coexist together. It's quite relevant to nowadays too, how people are fighting for their existence, and still here also, but atheists have some dispute with them, but it is not allowed in Utopia. So you can so clearly relate it to the present situation. Both of these things I personally, admire. Not talking about the story on a whole, that the story is written from the perspective of More himself, and that was common at the time, that Thomas More uses his own name and background to create the narrator. And the book is written in two parts that I have discussed. It is the dialogue of Council and second book, Discourse of Utopia. And the overall perspective is given according to it, and how Thomas More was so active in his public life. And you can relate to this. Some references to Thomas More is given here. And not talking about the tone, Utopia is quite playful tone, and one might think, and More's world is illustrating whatever point he is trying to get across, and he is having fun, engaging in creating his own world, as in demonstrated in the way he phrases, "Then let me implore you, my dear elf," said I described that island to us. That is the textual line. Another very famous line that he says that when Ralph had finished his story, I was left thinking that quite a few of the laws and customs he had described as existing among the utopians were totally absurd. These are some of the great lines, and this work is so recognized. Here you can see the bifurcation clearly, how book 1 and 2 in letters format is given. It's a really wonderful book. I really admire this one, and it is really a paramount in the literary context, and it is prescribed so many times. So I hope you will like it. Do share your views. Thanks for listening. Thank you.